The Jewish Channel's Week in Review. The identities of 85 alleged Orthodox child abusers won't be released. Finding the men in the minyan. What happened when Judaism met modern medicine. And more of the Jewish news that's changing your world right now in this episode of the Week in Review. Hello, and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. 85 Orthodox Jews arrested on suspicion of child sex abuse will not have their identities revealed because of the unique nature of the ultra-Orthodox community, according to a letter sent to the media by the district attorney's office in Brooklyn. The statement from that district attorney's office was a response to Freedom of Information law requests from several media outlets, including The Forward and The New York Times. Brooklyn DA Charles Hines has come under fire from anti-abuse advocates in the community for not having done more to prosecute alleged offenders. In his own defense, late last year, his spokesperson told The Forward that his office had arrested 89 men on child sex abuse charges in the ultra-Orthodox community in just the 2 years since late 2009. Requests for the identities of those men, a group since reduced to 85 men, have not been met by the DA's office. And now, after multiple media outlets issued Freedom of Information law requests, which generally require compliance by government officials to provide records to the public, the Brooklyn DA's office is citing the extraordinary and unique nature of the ultra-Orthodox community as the reason for its failure to provide those names. The letter declares the circumstances here are unique because all of the requested defendant names relate to Hasidic men who are alleged to have committed sex crimes against Hasidic victims within a very tight-knit and insular Brooklyn community. There is a significant danger that the disclosure of the defendants' names would lead members of that community to discern the identities of the victims. It is not yet clear whether the New York Times, which has a long history of pursuing denied requests through the courts, will proceed to litigation to get this information released. But another allegation of ultra-Orthodox wrongdoing in Baltimore is raising the specter of an episode of violence that the entire country is paying attention to, that of the shooting death of Trayvon Martin at the hands of George Zimmerman. In Baltimore, 2 ultra-Orthodox men who were members of the ultra-Orthodox Jewish neighborhood watch there, called Shomrim, stand charged of assaulting a 15-year-old black teen in late 2010. The police accounts of the case had the 2 men confronting the teen, telling him, quote, "You don't belong here," and throwing him to the ground. The 2 men, Avi and Eliyahu Werdesheim, now are likely to face a trial over their actions. But the lawyers for the 2 men are arguing this week that their trial should be moved out of Baltimore because of its similarities to the Trayvon Martin case. In a motion filed this week, they write of the 2 cases, both involve young African-American males walking along on public thoroughfares who supposedly were accosted by 1 or more Caucasian members of citizen patrol groups who felt they didn't belong in the area and allegedly subjected to unprovoked acts. The lawyers say that because black community leaders in Baltimore have declared the Werdesheim case analogous to that of Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman, the case should be moved elsewhere. Of course, in hoping to move a case from Baltimore to elsewhere in Maryland, the lawyers are likely seeking a change from Baltimore's majority black jury pool to a majority white jury pool in the suburbs. Of course, offenses against others can take many forms, even if they're not criminal or violent. And the so-called anti-bullying movement that sought to reduce verbal attacks on youngsters has become quite popular around the U.S. And with April serving as Autism Awareness Month, Meredith Gansman reports on an effort to combat bullying against those with autism.
I think someone at my friend's school has this thing called autism.
April is National Autism Awareness Month, and according to the CDC, 1 in every 88 children is diagnosed with autism. Even as the number of individuals with the syndrome grows, author and autism awareness advocate Jesse A. Saperstein says having Asperger's, the mildest form of autism, hasn't gotten any easier.
I consider my case to be mild, but there's really nothing mild about it. The problems it creates for myself and my peers can be quite severe.
Autism is a bioneurological developmental disability that impacts the normal development of the brain for social interaction, communication skills, and cognitive functioning. But Saperstein sees the syndrome a little differently.
I'd like to call it a character trait as opposed to a disability, because oftentimes the greatest disablers are the doomed first impressions, the misunderstandings, and irrational fear.
Those with autism and Asperger's often struggle with verbal and nonverbal communication and social interactions. In his book, atypical, Saperstein attempts to explain what it's really like to have Asperger's.
There's a myth surrounding people like myself that we lack empathy. That is a total misconception. We have tremendous empathy. People with Asperger's are often the ones who will return your wallet or purse when it's left in the middle of New York City. We do care about other people's feelings. I think where people get confused is we have trouble seeing things from other people's points of view.
Working to modify his behavior has often created further misconceptions about his condition.
People view those with Asperger's as being really uptight, nervous, inflexible, but that actually comes from monitoring what comes out of one's mouth.
And for autistic children, being misunderstood often leads to being bullied.
They're very eccentric. They do not conform, not by choice. I mean, a lot of misconceptions is that the behavior problems are a choice, and they tend to be severely naive, and that makes them an easy target.
As the diagnosis of autism becomes more and more common in children, the need to educate young people in order to prevent misunderstanding and bullying is now more prevalent than ever. Lois Nyron is an administrator at Ramaz Middle School, a Jewish day school in Manhattan, where through different advisory programs, teachers work with students to prevent bullying.
We work with our youngest students in 5th grade through our 8th graders on issues of friendship and respect and the Jewish values of V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha and kavod habriot to put things in a positive light.
To see how Nyron and Saperstein further combat bullying, tune into the full broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Meredith. Judaism's encounter with modern medicine is the subject of a current museum exhibit, as Christian Needham reports.
A new exhibition at Yeshiva University Museum is highlighting the role Jews played in shaping modern medicine. Trail of the Magic Bullet, The Jewish Encounter with Modern Medicine is a title inspired by Jewish Nobel Prize winner Paul Ehrlich, whose magic bullet approach to attacking disease-causing agents within a cell is just one of many Jewish contributions to the field of medicine, according to museum director Jacob Weiss.
The exhibition really takes the approach of tracing this trail where these remarkable scientific discoveries like the magic bullet led, and the aftermath of that, and that intersection with Jews and Jewish organizations.
Weiss described 3 facets of the exhibition which he hopes visitors will keep in mind when thinking about Jewish involvement in medicine.
The individuals, these remarkable scientists, these new Jewish doctors who were allowed for the first time really to practice medicine at the end of the 19th century, and then more broadly the perspective of communities or institutions who really use Jewish ideas and Jewish ethics to apply medical ideals, and then finally Jewish tradition and what role that has to play in still intersecting with medicine.
In addition to pictures and posters, the exhibition features many actual items, including Ehrlich's Magic Bullet compound, and high-quality replicas from a variety of collections.
Public collections, private collections, people who are very generous in sharing their holdings. So this gave us an opportunity to look at this topic, not just through theoretical, abstract text, but really through the objects, the documents, the photographs, the materials that bring this story to life.
That includes a variety of uniforms.
So this is a replica of a uniform worn by a nurse at the Visiting Nurse Service of New York, which is an organization that still continues to this day. And one thing that the exhibition does is it focuses not just on the individuals, but on the story of organizations like the Visiting Nurse Service, institutions like Hadassah and the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, which really brought Jewish ideals to the practice of medicine in a broad sense.
To see more from Trail of the Magic Bullet, now at the Yeshiva Museum through August 12th, please tune into the full broadcast edition of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Christian. Where have all the men gone? Rebecca Honig-Friedman finds out.
10 years ago, a phenomenon known as the Partnership Minyan, or prayer group, began with 2 independent congregations, Shira Chadasha in Jerusalem and Darchei Noam in New York. With a prayer service sometimes called Orthodox Egalitarian, these congregations maintain all the traditional prayers and rituals of a typical Orthodox service, but within that traditional structure, they've expanded leadership roles for women, finding ways for women to be called up to and read Torah and lead certain parts of the service, all within the bounds of how they understand Orthodox Jewish law.
There are now about 25 of these partnership congregations around the world. And while most of the discussion about them has focused on their inclusion of women, a new book called The Men's Section is asking all sorts of questions about the men involved in these synagogues. I spoke with the book's author before a recent panel discussion at the Jerisha Institute in New York.
All of this work that we're doing to empower women also has an impact on men. They have to do some kind of adjustment to make this happen.
Stockman, who lives in Modi'in, Israel, and helped found the Partnership Synagogue there, said she was inspired to write the book when she asked a male friend whom she considered to be a feminist if he intended to go to the then new Shira Chalasha Partnership Minyan in Jerusalem, and he said no.
I said, why? He said, well, if women are doing everything, what's there left for men to do? So that sort of got me thinking about how men experience synagogue as a place where they're defining and creating their own sense of what it means to be a Jewish man.
Over the course of 3 years, Stockman interviewed 54 men from around the world, all of whom were involved in partnership congregations. And what she found surprised her.
So many men who I went to interview said, don't interview me, I'm not here for the reasons you think I am. Which is true in the sense that a lot of men weren't there for, feminist reasons. What I found is that men are there for their own reasons.
To hear what Orthodox men have to say about the men's section, tune into the full broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Rebecca. Finally, a story that rankled many in the Jewish community this past week has a surprise ending. Links spread across social media this week about an alleged anti-Semitic shirt being sold by retailer Urban Outfitters. The webpage for the shirt had an image featuring a blue six-pointed star on a yellow background. A regional director of the Anti-Defamation League rushed out a statement condemning the shirt, saying that it was similar to the yellow star Jews were forced to wear in Nazi Europe and offensive. The ADL's Barry Morrison called the shirt, quote, a new low, and wrote in a letter to Urban Outfitters, we find this use of symbolism to be extremely distasteful and offensive, and are outraged that your company would make this product available to your customers. However, there were two problems with the ADL's anger. Firstly, as the Jewlicious blog noted, blue stars of David on yellow backgrounds can be found in other places, such as in the official logo of the Maccabi Tel Aviv soccer club. A similar logo can be found on the Maccabi Tel Aviv basketball team and on the skin-tight clothing of its cheerleaders. But even if one's still willing to take offense at the blue star on the yellow background, it seems the ADL never even bothered to check that the shirts were actually for sale as advertised. And in fact, according to the European designer, the unfortunately named for this story Brian S.S. Jensen, the shirt actually didn't make it into production with that design, precisely because his firm, Wood was worried of making offense. In a statement to the media, Jensen wrote, first of all, the graphic is not the Star of David, and I can assure you that this is in no way a reference to Judaism, Nazism, or the Holocaust. The graphic came from working with patchwork and geometric patterns for our spring-summer collection, State of Mind. However, when we received the prototype of this particular style, we did recognize the resemblance, which is why we decided not to include the star patch on the final production t-shirt. I assume the image people have reacted to comes from Urban Outfitters' website. This must be a photograph of an early prototype. I am sorry if anyone was offended seeing the shirt. It was, of course, never our intention to hurt any feelings with this. That's all for this week. From all of us here at the Jewish Channel, be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable. Time Warner Cable Channel 528, IO Optimum Channel 291, RCN Channel 268, Bright House Channel 330, Verizon Fios Channel 900, Cox Channel 1, Frontier Communications, and now on Comcast Cable in the on-demand menu under Premium Channels. For more information, visit tjctv.com.